What is up, locker heads? I'm here with another episode of Storage Locker Stories. It's something I've been wanting to address for a little while. It's something we get a lot of comments about, and also people in real life will say to me, "Oh, well, you know what this is worth and that's worth, and blah, blah, blah." Well, for me personally, as somebody who resells stuff, and like my business is selling stuff so I can buy more stuff and hopefully get that one huge score, I always want to make as much profit as I possibly can, but at the same time, I need to be able to move product and sell stuff to make money to buy more stuff and keep my inventory flowing. Because otherwise, you could sit there with something that's worth $1 million, but if it's just sitting there for a long period of time and never selling, it could be worth or valued at $1 million, but you have no money in your pocket. So what I want to do is tell you about how I learned and how Alyssa learned about the value of items and what we do to find the value of items and what something's worth. I mean, technically they're both the same thing, but like one thing, although see this? I bumped my head. It hurt. But one thing is a lot of comments be like, "Oh, those are worth $200." Like somebody who's only reselling a few things or it's their own personal items, yes, they could sit on it and wait around a little while to get $200. When we first started out doing this, when we would look on eBay or we would look around and find out what something was worth, we would be optimistic and always trying to get the most money for it. And there would be times where we had really good items and we wouldn't make any money, and stuff would just sit around for weeks and weeks and weeks until we finally, as we learned and got more experience, we learned you have to price stuff to sell when you're doing this as a business, as opposed to somebody just going out and selling stuff. And it's something that really, I don't know why, but it's something that really annoys me. Because I have people, it's not just people like what YouTube comments telling me, but like people in real life like, "Oh, that's worth so much, blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, well, then give me exactly what it's worth. "Oh, well, I don't want it," or this or that. And it's like, yeah, technically if you go into what do you call it? Like a baseball card, the magazines where you can look up the value, or even Kelly Blue Book with a car, or anything. You can look up the value of something. But just because that's the value of something doesn't mean that's what you're going to get for it. Especially when you're in the business of doing what we do, where if I don't sell X amount of dollars per week, I have bills to pay. I have lockers to buy. I have car insurance. I have rent. I have all these expenses. So, yeah, I might undersell, but it's in order to make things happen. Because if you're sitting on something just trying to get the exact amount that it's worth for it, you could be sitting there for months and months. Because I remember there was one piece that we did that with when we first started. And that's only because we liked the piece and we originally were going to keep it. So we put an extremely high price on it. It was what was it? It was a sterling silver. I think it was called a marriage cup. And it's something that, it used to be like more antique-y. And when you got married, it's something that the bride and groom would have. And we got it when we first started doing this, so 4.5 years ago. Before we even started buying storage lockers, I believe we got this piece. It was when we were doing garage sales and stuff like that. And we picked up the piece for $200. And when we did our research before we bought it, and we found out that it was worth $500. So we listed it for $500. And it literally sat in my room for 1.5 years in order to get $500 for it. And when you're in a business where you're buying and selling constantly, that is a bad, I guess not an invest, but it's just a bad way to do business, because you need to be able to repurchase your inventory. And it's just, I don't know. To me, It's not conducive to running a business when you're, you obviously want to get the most you can, like I've said in this video, but you want to get the most you possibly can from your items. I agree with that 100%. But at this, like I said, I've been saying, just because something has the perceived value or worth of, like, say a pair of Jordans, which is one of the biggest comments we get, like, oh, those are worth like $300. Like, I've sat on a pair of Jordans because I wanted to keep them for myself that I ended up selling for, I think, like $250. And yes, they were beautiful sneakers, and they are technically worth $300 or $250. But if I try and get that price from them, it took me 5 months to sell them. So if I have an item sitting for 5 months, yes, it's worth $300, but it's dead stock to me at that point. I mean, when I eventually sell it, yeah, it's nice. But if I sold it for $200 instead of $300, which is still good money most of the time, especially when you look at how much you pay for the locker. You have to factor that in, especially for resellers. If I only paid $200 for the locker and I could sell one item from the locker and make back my $200, that's moving forward. So now I could buy another $200 lockers with just one of the items we bought. So that's why, like, yeah, it is worth $300, but I will take $200. I will take $150 for it. And that's something that people don't understand like when they watch our videos, or even like a regular person that I talk to, like some friends and my family members understand that a little bit more. But at first, I think some of them didn't. But a lot of my friends and like more of acquaintances didn't understand that. Like, they'd be like, oh, that's worth so much money. And you're like, yeah, if I sit on it for a year, I could get $1,000 for it. But, I'll take $600 for it right now to get rid of it. This is the perfect example. We found a full-size wrestling ring. Full size. And this is where one of the things we have to add in a lot of other things. We paid $100 for the unit. But we have to realize, it's a full-size wrestling ring. Yes, it's desirable. Yes, a lot of people want it. But realistically, a lot of people can't buy them. Like, we had 5 people make offers and say, oh, well, I want to come get it. And then everything, it always fell through. And that's when we had it at, like, because we paid $100 for the room, and then it cost us $300 for another unit to store it in. So right there, it is $400 we have invested in this thing, and it's $300 every month we don't sell it. So we originally listed it for $2,500 because it was selling. A similar one was selling on a website that they like, that's what they do. They sell wrestling rings, they sell MMA rings, they sell stuff like that. Was selling for like $4,500. So we put it for $2,500 because it is used. I mean, we did have all the information on it and everything, but it was used. It wasn't new, so it was, but whatever. So, but you have to realize it costs us $300 every month it's not sold. And it's not an easy sell. Because, like I said, we had it was like 5 or 6 people contact us saying, we want to come get it, we want to come get it. Nobody paid the money on PayPal up front, so it's like you have to wait for them to come to get the money. And then everybody canceled at the last minute. And it was like, ugh. So on eBay, we get a message. Somebody's like, I'll give you $1,800 right now. He's like, $2,500 is a fair price, but at the same breath, it's going to cost me $600 to ship it. Because he had to get a shipping company, whatever. But he actually paid me right away. So for $400, I made $1,800. It was like 6 days after I paid $100 for a locker. So for me, I don't have to worry about the next month of renting a room for $300. So it was really it cost me $400. So I made $1,400 in 6 days. Well, actually, it was more than that because there was ladders and chairs and garbage pails that they hit each other with. We actually had a video of it in the videos. But there was ladders, chairs, garbage pails, and what was the other thing? a DJ, what do you call it? A soundboard. And it was a really good soundboard. So we ended up making like $25 to $3,000. I can't remember. It was $25, $3,000 off that room. And we paid $100. Well, $100 plus the $300 to store. So we paid $400. And within 7 days, we turned it into about $2,500 to $3,000. And yeah, the wrestling ring was worth a lot more money. But if you do the math, if I had to sit on it for 3 months, and I waited to get $2,500, you end up losing more money than if you sell it right away. And just like with other items, like when something takes up space, it costs you money for the space it's taking up, and it costs you like, I don't know. Yeah, smaller items, it's easier. So, like, when you have jewelry, like, a lot of times with jewelry, I'll wait on it. I'll sit on it because it doesn't take up a lot of space. But if you have, like the drum set we had, we could have easily gotten, like, $1,000, probably, like, $800 would be more realistic. But it was taking up a lot of real estate, and it was awkward, too. So, it was taking up more space because you couldn't stack it on top of stuff. So, we were able to sell it very quickly. We only paid $200 for the room, or $200, whatever it was. And when you're able to make your money, we sold the one bass drum for $200, and then the other drums combined for $300. So we made $500. Our room we spent $200 and change for. So that's a good profit. It keeps me buying more units, and the money's not dead. When you have the dead money, like that's what I call it, dead money. That's how I refer, when me and Alyssa are talking, I refer to it as dead money. Because when you have items that are worth money but nobody's buying them, that's dead money. Yeah, you know, I don't know. It really just annoys me when somebody's like, well, you could have got so much more for that. I'm like, well, then you should have given me even the money I was asking for. Why didn't you give me the money I was asking for? Oh, well, yeah, exactly. I made my money. I made my profit. If I was doing this and it wasn't profitable and I was underselling stuff so much that I wasn't making any money, I can understand when somebody says stuff like that to me. But I'm not. I make sure, you know, I'm making a profit on the room. I want to move stuff. I want to make people happy as well. So when somebody gets a good deal, they're going to come back and look for me. Because we have a bunch of people on eBay that, you know, subscribe to us because they want to know when we're selling stuff, because they know we give good deals. And like I said, we make sure we're keeping our money flowing. We make sure, we live in New York City. It's very expensive. We have a lot of bills to pay and everything. So if we have items that are just sitting around waiting to get top dollar for every single time, we're going to be dead in a month or two. It's expensive in New York. Like, so, but that's also why I hate, like, there's a lot of times, like, this is another, like, it's similar but connected. Like, you'll see posts on Facebook about people's VHS collections being worth thousands of dollars. Like, stuff on eBay could be listed at any price. So there are people that list the VHS of Cinderella because it was the Diamond Edition. They'll list it for $10,000. Some of the VHSs from Disney, like the original releases, sometimes will sell for like 30, 40, 50 bucks if they were never opened. But if it's an opened VHS tape, it's not going to sell for $20,000 or $5,000. Trust me. If it would, I'd be the first one selling them. And even with the VHSs, people want the original sealed ones, and that's when they'll pay 20 or 30, 40, 50 bucks for it. But people will be like, oh, they're worth so much money. Are you kidding me? I'm going to go to my basement and find them. Ah! But that's not how it works. They look at eBay. When Flappy Bird got discontinued because it got sued. People don't realize the phones were selling on eBay for thousands of dollars, but it was fake. If you looked at all the bidders and buyers, they had zero feedback. My old boss got caught up in that. He had a phone with Flappy Bird and he sold it on eBay for fucking $2,500. Guess what? He sold it 7 times and it didn't sell one time. Like nobody paid. I mean, not sell, but it didn't get paid for one time. And then so what happens is people try to buy it now, and then it just sits there. But then other people look it up and say, oh well, it's listed at this much. But if you go to eBay on the left, there's a thing that says sold items, and if you look at that, it shows you how much it's sold for. And then if you go in, you could see the bidders. You don't see their names usually. They like star out their name. But you look, if they have zero or very low feedback, a lot of times those are fake bidders. And then most likely it was never paid for. And I guarantee you, if you message people that have items that's like somebody was selling air from New York or air from Coachella or air from, you know, stupid stuff like that. I guarantee you, if you go in and message half of these people and say, hey, did that item actually sell and get paid for? I guarantee you most of them are going to say no. Because, like I said, you can list something for as much as you want, and then there's people that just troll. They have fake accounts and they bid stuff up just to make it look funny, just to maybe get on a story on the news. You know, when McDonald's released the secret sauce, that was real, but that's because it was the secret sauce from McDonald's that's never been released in a packet before, which sucks for the guy now because apparently they're going to be releasing that. But when you're doing when you're looking up the value or worth of something, you know, obviously insurance value, you want to go to a professional appraiser and get it appraised for insurance. That means that is actually what the item is going to be worth if it obviously breaks or gets damaged or gets stolen. So like let's say Alyssa's ring. It was valued at around $5,000, give or take, depending on the market, depending on this app. But about $5,000 it was valued at. That means insurance value. So if she gets it insured, it will be insured for $5,000. We'll have to pay, you know, whatever the premium every month is for that, which we're going to eventually do. And if it gets broken, lost, stolen, whatever, and we report it, they'll give us $5,000 to replace it. But if we ever tried to sell her a ring, we could go with the appraisal to any jeweler and whatever and be like, hey, this is worth $5,000. They'll be like, okay, but we're not going to give you $5,000 for it. They'll be like, we'll give you... I think when we first found the ring, the guy in the store offered us $2,500 for it. So they'll try and give you half. But they're not even going to try and sell it for $5,000. The insurance, they'd want to give you $2,500 for it, and they're going to try and sell it for $3,500 or $4,000. Because the insurance values and appraisal values and stuff like that don't mean it's what it's going to sell for. I mean, there are instances where if you put something up on eBay for auction, like this happened, I think it was with, it was a crystal wiener dog from Viennes, Viennes, that we had from a locker. I'm talking like 3-4 years ago. But it was a very beautiful piece and everything. It ended up breaking when it got shipped. But if you looked at the value of it on eBay and on the internet, its value was about $50 to $75 is what it sold for. Sorry, Lando wants a little bit of attention. But the wiener dog was worth about $50 to $75. That's what it was selling for at the time. I don't know anymore what it's worth, like what its value is. But at the time, it sold 2 or 3 times on eBay from $50 to $75, and it was listed on a website for like $75. So we put it up, but there was none for sale on eBay, and I believe the website was sold out at the time. And the item ended up selling for about $225 because 2 people really wanted it. So, you know, that's why sometimes bidding is better than buy it now. But in the same breath, that was good for us. But if you went by what it's worth, it was only worth $50 to $75. But that's the thing. This is the old saying. Something is worth what people are willing to pay for it at that moment. And that's the best thing to do. But you have to, obviously, if you're going to be doing storage lockers, if you're going to be doing resale, or anything like involving that, you have to understand the importance of valuing stuff to sell, especially with reselling, and because you need to be able to buy your inventory and restock. Because if you just want to get top dollar for everything, it does take a lot longer. I know I've been going on for a while about this. I'm very passionate about this because it's something I get into. I don't want to say arguments with people, but I would say heated debates with, because, you know, like I just said, something is worth what people are willing to pay for it at that moment. And it's almost like, let's say a lighter. In an everyday, regular basis, a lighter is worth, what, 50 cents to $1? You can buy it at any store. Even in New York, they're about 50 cents or $1. But if you're stuck in the wild, you would give anything for that lighter to be able to stay alive. If you don't know how to, like, I'm from New York, born and raised. I've never been hiking. I've never been camping. I don't know how to light a fire, other than a lighter or a match. So if I was stuck in the wild, a lighter and a match would be, there would be no price tag. It would be, you know, the most expensive thing in the world, the most valuable thing in the world. So a lot of times you have to realize value is what somebody's willing to pay at that moment. And you just can't get caught up in trying, especially if you're somebody who's trying to do like a side job or part-time resale or whatever, where you're just trying to make a few bucks. I encourage you, just try and get the maximum value, because that's how you're going to make money doing it that way. If you're somebody who's going to constantly be buying and selling, you need to be able to move your inventory to be able to buy new inventory. Because when you're doing this full-time, I know for myself, I know a lot of other people that I work with, I won't call them I guess they're kind of like colleagues, but we understand that you have to be able to move your inventory, sell it. So you're looking for the big score. Everybody's looking for that big score. So you want to have as much money available to buy a new locker, or it doesn't even have to be a locker. Any opportunity that comes that you need money for, you want to have as much capital as you possibly can. And yeah, you don't want to give stuff away. But there are times where, like if we're at the flea market and nobody's looking at stuff all day, and somebody comes over and says, how much? And you're like, $10. And they're like, $5. Literally nobody's picked it up all day. Why are you gonna mess up a sale instead of taking the $5? Yeah, it might be worth $10, but if nobody buys it, at $0 that you have to wait another week to try and sell, and what happens if it doesn't sell again? So sometimes a short sale, especially in the resale business, is what you have to take, because stuff is only worth what people are willing to pay at that moment. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening to me rant. Give this video a like. Tell me what you think about value in the comments below. And I will see you guys later in this week. We have a really, really amazing video that's going to be featuring some high-end fashion stuff like Chanel, Louis Vuitton, stuff like that. From Long Island City. It was an amazing room.